Okay, everybody, welcome back. This is Max, as always. Thank you very much for joining me today for this presentation. Today we speak about Chapter 2.5, the 300 trillion mystery. What you see on your screen here is obviously the HSBC logo and the Illuminati $1 bill with our famous pyramid. Why HSBC? Well, as you know from previous chapters, I'm not a big fan of this criminal enterprise. And I came across something absolutely extraordinary that I will lay down on you today, some time ago. I will present a number of documents to you on the screen, and I will also show you two short video files in the end of this presentation for you to have a clear picture of the astonishing information I'm about to lay upon you. Now, before we do that, as usual, the housekeeping. Please find me on Amazon. That's the page for the book. Give me a like on YouTube, on Rumble, and on Brightern as usual. So let's get into this, shall we? Now, I thought long and hard if I should include this information in my writings, as it will seem out of this world. But I said, what the hell? It's my book. I write whatever I want. So here it goes. As you're aware, I'm not a warm and fuzzy when it comes to HSBC, or any bank for that matter. But something fell in my lap in 2023 that really floored me, and I will explain that now. Mind you, I'm not saying in any way that this information is accurate, as it has not materialized to the public yet. It has been completely scrubbed from the internet. You will not find it even if you try. I have some minor corroboration, which I will link to, but that's as far as it goes. I hope this is legit, I really do, because it would change the fate of the world moving forward. Now, all these documents that I'm about to show you, I saved them myself on my drive when I found them, because I had a sneaky suspicion that it would disappear. So, I don't know of anybody else holding this information. Now, some pretext. After what you read regarding the ballooning national debt of the USA in the previous chapters, I wanted to add this, even though it does not follow the timeline of the book at all. But it gives some context to where we are and where we might be heading. I have in my study discovered very significant act made by Donald Trump in 2017 as soon as he came into office. He issued Executive Order 13818. You can find it online at the federalregister.gov. It's still up there if you check. This is what it looks like. This law clearly states that anybody involved in human trafficking, child sex trafficking, or human rights abuses will have all their assets seized. This law was implemented as of December 20th, 2017. Below I will present what happened as a consequence of this momentous executive order. Now, the documents I'm about to show you describes the creation of the OMS, Office of Military Settlements, established March 28, 2014, so this goes back in time. I used to have a document prior that described how the creation of this office was a UN-backed operation, United Nations. Of course, I have lost that document, I don't have it anymore, but I hope what I show you here will be enough to convince you that this thing is probably legit. Now, please look at the screen and note the participants. Very important. This document here mentions Ban Ki-moon, Secretary General of the United Nations, highlighted in red. Queen Elizabeth II. The last guy on the page, Chairman Ben Bernanke, Chairman of the Federal Reserve. Moving on page 2. It mentions the President of the World Bank, Robert Zulik, Pope Benedict, Secretary Timothy Geithner, the US Treasury Secretary. Now, this document states that the office shall discover and consolidate the value of these estates. I don't know which estates we're talking about, but hey. Establish procedures for settlement, receive claims against the estates, discharge, settle, and close all verified claims, debts, or liability against the estates. Next, a declaration indicating the power of attorney to a certain General Zeleny. Now notice the logos on top of this document. United Nations is one of them. It says here on the document that in the center, whereas the deed of settlement and power attorney of attorney grant General Zeleny the standing, status, and capacity to execute and administer the discharge, settlement, and closure of all claims and liabilities against the public franchises of said United States and or the underlying estates thereof. So this document basically says that this General Zeleny has absolute power of attorney of whatever funds that goes through this organization. It also says on the next page, a hearing will be held on June 6, 2014, to all the parties with valid and legitimate claims. So basically, people that are creditors can issue a claim to this entity, and this entity will go out and seize whatever assets or properties or companies or whatever that may be. Pretty astonishing, if you ask me. When you go to the last page here, you will see that this document here is still a UN document, obviously, signed by General Zeleny, Military Forces Chief of Staff. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. I do not pretend to know what any of this implies or what effect it has, but it is a UN document. Names are mentioned. But now to the interesting part, because what happened then? Okay. Now here on your screen you will see a document that has been unredacted or released. It says Office of Military Settlements on top. I will read it out to you. Dear President Trump, known all men by this presence, congratulations on your recent win of the 2016 election. I envy not the enormous undertaking before you, or the task to make America great again, and enrich the lives of the American people. There are some that would subvert your presidency, yet others like us, who wish only for you to succeed, and peacefully restore the Republic to what it was meant to be, when the Founding Fathers issued a Bill of Equity to King George III. The highlighted part here. The Secretary and the Administrator each may reject a gift when the rejection is in the interest of the government. I trust the gift will be used for the benefit of the people. Please find and close sufficient monies to offset the federal public debt. The gift was delivered in honor to Bureau of the Fiscal Services at Parkersburg, blah, 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 on March 21st, 2017 to Jamie Sailing. The instrument is directed to the attention of Commissioner Cheryl Morrow. Please remember that name for later, Cheryl Morrow. You now have the opportunity of solvency and to issue interest-free USN, that is US notes, not Federal Reserve notes, as did President Lincoln in 1862. Trusting all is satisfactory, General Zeleny, signed by him. This letter is from 22nd of March 2017, just after Donald Trump was inaugurated to the White House a few months after. Now, General Zeleny's letter to President Trump is March 22nd, 2017, stating the delivery of sufficient funds to settle the national debt. What are we talking about? Where did this money come from? Well, it turns out They came from HSBC in Hong Kong. And I will show you the documentation in that regard. In the tune of 300 trillion US dollars. Yes, this was a transaction of 300 trillion. Now, in order to give some context to the discussion here, the global economy is meant to be 111 trillion. That is the entirety of the wealth of the planet. Okay, all the companies, all investments, stock markets, private wealth, gold and silver, whatever. 111 trillion. This is 3 times that. And this transaction was made through a bank with one account with 300 trillion inside. 3 times the world's wealth. This is the largest transaction made in history. And it went through the HSBC organization, as I will show you now. So how did this work? Step 1, documented fact. The money was deposited into the account of HCP Accounting Company in Hong Kong. I checked this up. The company does exist on the address indicated in Hong Kong. I have seen many HSBC slips in my day. They are green in color. And the image on the screen is kind of green, even though it's a scan and a copy. If you look at the highlighted part, HCP Accounting is the beneficiary, and the amount described there is $300 trillion. That is a 3 with 15 zeros after it. Absolutely astonishing. We proceed. What happened later? Step 2. Freeze the assets. A UCC filing is standard procedures when assets are seized. Basically, the government comes in and issues a lien on the assets. This is when a document like this is issued. This document is real and has been tracked back to the system. It does exist. Now here you can see the highlighted parts. Office of Military Settlements. The debtors is Hong Kong Shanghai Banking Corporation. To the attention of a certain Peter Wong, you can see highlighted. In the description below, you will see collateral, account number, which is the account number of this accounting company, 300 trillion United States dollars, that's clearly indicated. And the names and entities above, along with others, may be involved in the following theft of private assets, securities, monies, assets, and are in violation of one or more of the following United States codes. These are US codes. Transportation of stolen goods, money, securities, sale or receipt of stolen goods, theft, embezzlement, or misapplication by bank officer or employees, depositories failing to safeguard deposits. Okay, so this is the reasoning behind the lien or the seizure. Now, I looked up Peter Wong. There actually was a Peter Wong active in HSBC that same year. It says here, what I found online was that Peter Wong is a Hong Kong banker associated with the HSBC, Standard Chartered, and Citibank. He retired as CEO of HSBC Asia Pacific and became non-executive chairman of the Hong Kong Shanghai Banking Corporation, effective 7th of June 2021. So I suppose this guy is still around. Now what happened later? Step number 3. Bank confirmation letter. Bank basically replies to the request stating that the account name HCP Accounting Company Limited with the bank account. It confirms that the actual amount is $300 trillion. This deposit is good, clean, clear funds and come from a legitimate source, it says. Notice on the bottom of the page it's signed by Peter Wong. His title is Senior Manager, so he's way up the food chain in HSBC. What happens later? Another document is issued. Confirmation of administrative hold. Here it basically says that yes, we have this money, $300 trillion under account number, blah, blah, blah. And that's it. Signed by Peter Wong, Senior Manager, again. Next document. They show the HPC accounting bank statement. It looks identical to my bank statements from HSBC, but I never had this many zeros ever on my statement. If I did, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today, would I? So this confirms that the money is indeed inside that account. Then step number 4. This, what I'm showing you now, is a transfer slip. I've seen this in the past, especially when you send large amounts and large sums. Here it says that the payee, that is the receiver of the money, is the Department of the Treasury. Attention to Cheryl Morrow, Commissioner. Well, we saw that name before, didn't we, in the original document, the letter to Trump. It also mentions the drawer is Zeleny Darrell Clayton. That is General Zeleny. Here it indicates $21 trillion. That's $21 trillion sent to the Department of the Treasury in the United States of America, to a certain Cheryl Morrow. 21 trillion. Now, this Cheryl Morrow also appears on another document issued just later. This is acknowledgement of the receipt of payment of the debt as of March 24th, 2017. Here it says, debt statement account as of March 24th, 2017 is 19,846,000,000,000, blah, 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 blah. Lots of numbers. It says, discharge through bill of exchange pay order with a number of 21 trillion and an ending balance, a surplus of 1.1 trillion. So basically they got more money than they needed at the time. At that time, the US national debt was supposedly $19.8 trillion. So if this was 2017, today is 2025 and we're sitting at $37 trillion. We almost doubled the national debt in these years, which is astonishing in itself. The funny thing is that we have an ending balance surplus of 1.1 trillion. Who knows where that money went, eh? We have no idea. So, these are the documents. Okay, we can see the transaction. We have the paper trail, as I say, follow the money, right? This is what we did. The obvious question is, what happened? If the debt was paid off back then, why is it still visible? Why are they still talking about it, right? Now, I'm not able to answer this question as I can't even confirm that all of this is true. But if it would materialize one day, I'm glad I left it on record here. So you heard it from me first. Needless to say that if all of this was actually true, it would radically change the world. My understanding is that each country could have made the same claim for the remaining money after the 21st trillion was sent to the US. Remember, if you go back and look at the documents in the beginning, those documents mentioned 253 countries that Zeleny was responsible for. So I think the whole scope of this operation was done to start clearing out the world debt in fiat money. This money was taken from the banksters themselves through executive order. At this point, Rothschild would be irrelevant and has been neutered like a dog. We will discuss more about this in later chapters, so hold on. Again, I'm only speculating here, but the executive order mentioned above, or before, speaks of the seizure of assets. I am aware that the dates do not match. The EO, the executive order, was issued after these documents were were done or issued or the date or dated. But what if it was already done in the background before Trump even took office? Because that's what the documents say. Now, I'm going to present you with two little clips here of two very intelligent gentlemen, academics, legal scholars, so to speak, that had also discovered this issue and will explain a little bit further. This is the Sarah Westall show, a very, very bright young lady that I respect very much. So I'll see you on the other side of this.
Okay, there we are. So, Sarah, would you like to read that to your audience?
Yeah, well, okay, it says, Dear President Trump, known all men by these presents, congratulations on your recent win of the 2016 election. I envy not the enormous undertaking before you or the task to make America great again and enrich the lives of the American people. There are some that would subvert your presidency, yet others like us who wish only for you to succeed and peacefully restore the republic to what it was meant to be when the founding fathers issued a bill in equity to King George III. The secretary and the administrator each may reject a gift when the rejection is in the interest of the government. I trust the gift will be used for the benefit of the people. Please find and close sufficient monies to offset the federal public debt. The gift was delivered in honor to the Bureau of the Fiscal Service at Parkersburg, West Virginia, 3:40 p.m. on March 21st, 2017 to Jamie Sailing. The instrument is directed to the attention of the Commissioner Cheryl Morrow. You now have the opportunity of solvency and to issue interest-free USN as did President Lincoln in 1862. Trusting all is satisfactory. And then he signs it, General Zeleny, Trustee, Office of Military Settlements. Okay, let's talk a little bit this, because he's giving $21 trillion in this. That's what it looks like, right, when you dive into this more. Now, first of all, what is the Office of Military Settlements?
Oh, okay, I'll take a stab at that. It was formed on April the 24th, 2014. And the reason why that date sticks so in my mind is because it was my father's birthday, not the year, but the April the 24th, as well as my parents' anniversary. So these offices were set up around the world. I don't have all the signatories readily coming to mind, but I did recall in one document the Queen signed it, as did somebody from the Federal Reserve, and there were others who signed it. The big question becomes, for all of us who have lived past during the last 4 years and have been subjected to all sorts of information, real, fake, the one thing I really want to stress to everyone viewing this is these are very real documents. It's a very real storyline. And the fact is, not only was there $21 trillion made available to President Trump and the Treasury, but the other part of the mystery is where did it come from? And I'll just be upfront now, and we can delve a little bit deeper. The $21 trillion came off a single bank account in Hong Kong, which was frozen by a lien placed by the Office of Military Settlements. And that office is in California. I don't know where the other ones are around the world. What I was leading up to is I have, in terms of my last 4 years, I don't really know who the good guys and the bad guys are in this narrative. I still don't know. I can only hope that General Zeleny in this office represents the good guys. But what they did is, for some reason, they found this one bank account that had $300 trillion in it. And I'd like to just pause right here and ask everybody to think, what does $300 trillion really represent? And if you go to 2018, the gross domestic product of the United States was 20 trillion. I think recently it's 25 trillion. So that means if you do the simple math, 300, let's go with 25 trillion for the GDP, divide by 25, that means you have 12 years worth of blood, sweat, and tears of the American people laboring to create that gross domestic product of 300 trillion. Or the other way to express it is the gross domestic product of the world for, I believe the year was, let me just go to my notes, 2022 was 100 trillion. So that means the entire world, 8 billion people slaving and toiling, using ingenuity, all of that combined represents 3 years of total effort by all of humanity. That's what 300 trillion represents. So bottom line is the Office of Military Settlements, General Zeleny and his team froze that money in that account, and the 21 trillion was written from that. And Dr. Thrivers, if you're around, perhaps you can continue the story and what this really means, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes. Well, this means that we are the Hawaii, like General Zeleny, sits in a position to complete what John F. Kennedy fought for and died for. And
before we get more into, no, this is absolutely excellent. But before we get more into the Supreme Court, can I ask you guys to talk a little bit more about this General Zeleny and this $300 trillion account and the paying off the $21 trillion debt? Howard, my understanding is that you did some research, just so people understand that this isn't just some random document you found. You did research to show, actually, Dr. Thrivers, I think you did the UCC research to show that UCC is legit. You also did research to show that this bank and bank account exists. And you also called General Zeleny and talked to him. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, let me go back one step. In 2013, there was an interview with, he wasn't General Zeleny at the time, he was a retired Air Force officer of the Canadian Air Force. And around 2010, 9, after the mortgage bubble and that whole fiasco took place, he was retired. He was asked to investigate and to look long range at the issues for national security of Canada. And he took up that challenge. And basically the conclusion he came to is that the greatest threat to Canada was the government itself and our banks. Incredible. And then he did something very brave. He actually lived not too far from where I live. One of the locations is the Air Force Base at Trenton. He had a property there, and elsewhere he had 3 properties. And what he did is he stopped paying his mortgage on the 3, and he went about to expose the fraud of the banks and mortgages and things like that. He went before the courts in Ontario. So that interview is 2013. Now, the letter that Sarah just read from March the 22nd, 2017, he's General Zeleny handling 21 trillion. I have no idea how to fill in the gaps there.
How did he become a general? And is he a general with the United States government or with the Canadian government?
Okay, I would think it would be with the U.S. military. Maybe I'm wrong. My conversation was brief. I felt very honored that he actually picked up the phone and talked to me. I knew it was him instantly because the voice in that interview from 2013 was the voice I heard at the other end of the phone. It was not a long conversation. I wanted to identify myself. I wanted him to know that we were aware of the 55 pages of that document. But I also asked him specifically, was he aware of the filing from the Hawaiian Nation on June the 23rd, 2023, of which he was not aware of. So what I did that afternoon is I actually sent him via email all that documentation, including, Sarah, your interview with Dr. Three Rivers and myself. He was very gracious. He said, if there is something down the road I can do for the Hawaiian people, let me know. And so that I haven't communicated with him since. I'm hoping that after this interview and after what takes place today, that Dr. Three Rivers or someone, we all have questions. We have amazing questions that we can connect with him again, and that he would want to be gracious and communicate with us, and perhaps answer some of the fill in the blanks that we very much still have. So that's.
I left him a message and an email, but I just did that over the vacation, right? And January 1st. So this is January 2nd that we're recording. So it hasn't had enough time, but I'm hoping once this airs that he hears it and he can get back to us, or he just gets my message before that. And we'll do an update. Go ahead.
Sarah.
So, that's a long explanation, but I wanted to include the small video clips because this is the only thing I've ever seen online that is still available that people can watch regarding this situation. And these two gentlemen actually confirm, and they did the digging into these documents, and they confirmed that they are absolutely legit. So the question here is, what do we make of that? What do we make of this largest transaction in human history? Where is this money? Why are we still in debt? What is Trump up to? I honestly cannot answer that question, but I find it very intriguing nonetheless, so I thought I would put it out there and see. Maybe somebody knows something. Who knows? It is anyway a crazy, crazy world, that's for sure. Now that's all for me on this chapter. I will see you on the next one, chapter 3.1, the law of land, water, and you. And here we start going into what the Khazarian mafia has actually done to us through the ages. And it will be shocking, but true. So, max out, and peace to you all.